guys, I'm Danny.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome again to our YouTube channel. Yes, so today we're going to talk about why we chose Australia among other countries. So basically, we're going to give you a very quick overview as to why we chose Australia. What made you choose Australia, Nick?
So mainly, it's the work-life balance, really,
Yes.
above all things. Back overseas, my experience working as a junior doctor was you had to work crazy hours, 24 to 36-hour shifts. That was the big problem, really, is not getting enough sleep and space in between shifts, and you basically don't have a life or a social life outside of work. In Australia, though, it's a very different thing. You have laws that protect you from overworking, and the working hours in Australia is really the best, I can say.
Yeah, I can say that.
So it's like working in an office, really. You come into work 8 a.m, you go home 4:35 p.m, and usually it's just Monday to Friday. Saturdays and Sundays are usually covered by only those people who have weekend shifts. So you will expect to have one weekend shift once a month or once every 2 months.
That's true.
So you just really alternate with your other fellow junior doctors covering the weekend shift. So other than that, you have early morning to do some surfing before you go to work.
Surfing, yes.
After work, people surf again.
That's
go
true.
out for dinner with friends.
Yeah.
And on weekends, you can basically go out of town and have a
short trip.
Yeah,
have a short vacation. Yeah. So to give you more about the idea on our work hours, usually the maximum time that you get to be at work would be really maximum 12 hours. Most of the time it's 8 to 10 hours. At any stage you go beyond the 12, or at any stage that the time between you leaving work and you arriving work would be less than 10 hours, you would be already fatigued. Okay.
So they make sure that you always get at least 10 hours of rest time before starting your next shift. So 24-hour shifts here are unheard of.
Yeah,
basically.
and we feel that it's also paramount for patient safety.
Yeah.
Because you really have to be at your best state when you're working, because you're taking care of people's lives, right? Yeah. So there, if the fatigue rules are breached, it's either they will pay you double, but they discourage that because, again, you need to rest, or you can arrive at a later time at work as long as you fulfill that 10-hour requirement. Yes. What makes the work-life balance more enticing here are the leave entitlements that we receive. As young as being an intern and as young as being a junior doctor here, you're entitled for annual leave. It's between 4 to 5 weeks annually. You can get full pay out of that. If you want something longer, you can get like half pay depending on how you negotiate your request.
So Danny, you're telling me out of the 12 months of the year, 1 month is annual leave, meaning you can go on vacation and you still get paid.
And you still get paid fully. Some people don't use up their full 4 weeks throughout. They distribute it in several times in a year. Like you just take 1 week leave this term, the next term you take 2 weeks. And you're entitled for that. Okay. Another type of leave that you can access is your sick leave. Of course, you're still human despite being a doctor. You have a minimum of 8 to 10 days in a year, and it usually becomes more as longer as the longer you work for that institution.
So it accumulates. If you don't use your sick leave, it accumulates, and if you decide to leave the hospital, you can actually have get your payout for unused sick leaves.
Yeah, and I think it differs as well in every state. The next leave that people actually appreciate is the professional development leave. So this is the leave that you can access. For example, if you really want to attend a conference that you feel that would be most beneficial to your training, you can apply that to your to the guys who manage the roster, and then they would usually grant it. Because again, medicine is an ongoing field. You have to learn new stuff every day. That's why they fully support your career development. Okay.
Another type of leave is the parental leave. So you have the maternity leave, which you can get 14 weeks of maternity leave.
And that's fully paid.
That's fully paid. And there's no discrimination here with being a father. So there's also such a thing as paternity leave.
Yes.
But I think it's a little bit less than maternity leave, but you can still take it.
That's true.
It's still significant, and I think it's a few weeks or so as well, like 4-6 weeks.
Yeah, and usually if you want a longer leave, you can negotiate to make you half paid. So your 14 weeks, you can extend it to more than 20, but again, you get half the minimum amount. You are also entitled to have extra leave, but again, you won't get any pay for that. Okay. The last type of leave is the purchased leave. So let's say you really have an intense family commitment that you need to finish, or you really want to finish a master's degree apart from being a doctor. You can have up to at least 6 weeks in a year to have that. But again, all types of institutions have different ways on how you can apply for this, and I think it's a matter of letting them know that you're really keen to finish that type of activity.
So besides the good work-life balance and amazing work hours, another advantage of working in Australia is holiday pay.
Yes, holiday pay
or weekend pay. So you actually get a higher pay rate if you work weekend shifts, or if you work after hours, meaning evening and night shifts.
That's true.
And when you work during the holidays. So usually on a Saturday shift, your salary is multiplied 1.5 times.
Yes.
Or on a Sunday or public holiday, you can go as much as 2 times higher. So let's say you're on a $40 an hour base rate, and if you work a 10-hour weekend shift on a Sunday, so that's $400 times 2, so that's $800 for working 10 hours on a Sunday.
And that's actually very good, because it makes people become more happy, I guess, because the effort that they make in working, you could really feel how well you're compensated at. That's why they really expect you to be at your best during work, because they're giving you this wonderful life balance and wonderful opportunity to pay for the lifestyle that you want to have, right? Yes. One thing that you need to think about, it's the reality that there's still a mismatch between doctors being distributed in different areas here. So if you search in Google and ask, does Australia need more doctors or not? Often they say that there are enough doctors here in Australia, but there's again a difference in the number of doctors available within the rural, regional, and remote areas. Okay, most of the Australian graduates that are finishing their degrees here in Australia often go to the more urban areas, okay? But these regional rural towns, they actually need more doctors.
So there's actually a high chance for IMGs to get job offers from regional hospitals and regional GP practices.
And there are a lot of advantages about going to these places. It's not about the level of how well they do medicine there, because I feel that every institution is basically the same, because they have all the same guidelines throughout the entire country. But the main advantage of going here is actually the cost of living. because it's pretty low. You can get like a $250 a week house, and it's a very huge property, and that's actually very good. Another is communities in these regional towns are very welcoming and very supportive, because they would be happy that finally there's a new doctor who's happy to serve their town. Another is there are higher financial incentives when you go to these towns. Even Medicare gives you an extra bit of money if they see that you're working in this specific postcode that's usually out of the urban areas. So that's really a big advantage of going here.
In fact, some of the job offers from, let's say, especially GP practices in more rural areas, they even offer sometimes job packages that include free housing, free car service, free electricity, and you still get paid your usual salary, and you get incentives for moving there as well. So just to give you an idea, sometimes the incentive for working there for 1 year can sometimes be $10,000 to $15,000, and that's just the incentive for working there. And you have free living expenses. You just pay for your food, and that's it.
And that's it.
You can think of all the money you can save if you go rural.
And again, it's integrating yourself with the community, because I personally feel that people in these regional towns, they're very appreciative of your work. Being a doctor here in Australia allows you to have that opportunity to have this certain high level standard of living. Being a doctor here, they respect your profession, especially now in this pandemic, times wherein we live in a pandemic period, and they regard you as a very important part of the community. And they know that, oh, this is my doctor. Hi, doctor, how are you? During my first time doing my GP stint this year, I've actually been very happy, and the people that I work with, they even give me their pumpkins because they're farmers. I'm like, wow, that's actually nice.
It's really nice working in regional areas, really, because the community is so close-knit, and you actually become a part of their community as well.
That's true. And of course, there is increasing support for education and career development. If you're working in the hospital, you get that PDL leave. If you work outside the hospital, like in a GP clinic, they still encourage you to do that. So given that you need to be very aware about the new standards of care, you need to be aware if there's any changing guidelines, they would encourage you to have that leave to go to conferences. Even the video conferencing is very helpful. Case conferencing is very helpful as well. And the really good thing about being a doctor here is job security. So again, in this pandemic era, healthcare professionals had their jobs. And the good thing is, if you have this job, you are protected by laws, you are protected by employment conditions. Like, for example, if you need to leave, you are entitled to have like a separation pay. But essentially, they really have a high regard to your profession. I think we need to talk about us being an international medical graduates. What did we feel when we first got into like working in the hospital?
So I was under the assumption that because I'm an IMG, that I would face some racial discrimination. I was very afraid of that, but I was pleasantly surprised that there wasn't really much racial discrimination here. And another thing was, I was surprised that despite the hierarchy of being a junior doctor, registrar, and consultant, there wasn't really any barriers in communicating with them. So even if you're just a junior doctor here, they treat you with the same respect and professionalism, and they actually treat you as a member of the
team,
multidisciplinary team, really. And you always have a voice, and they will hear what you have to say. So your opinion and what you think of the patient's management is always important to them. So there's definitely no bullying or intimidation here. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that. And I think it's because Australia is already a multicultural country. They really welcome people outside of Australia because they feel that, you know, you could easily get along with them. And I feel that we came to the part of our career when we don't know anything, it's just easy to talk about these questions to our consultants, because they feel that they also have this responsibility to make sure that your training is good and you're learning a good thing. And if you don't know about this case, they're there to guide you. That's why I'm very, very thankful about our experience so far here.
And what I've noticed as well, like during clinical teaching, let's say bedside rounds, they don't have this culture of quizzing you in front of patients, which personally is very difficult. I mean, overseas I've experienced that. It's not a pleasant thing, and you always have to be on your feet when you go on bedside rounds, because you don't know what your consultant is going to ask you or quiz you. So they actually give you the freedom to educate yourself and do your own learning. And if you have questions, you're free to ask them and talk to them, but they're not going to give you this pressure of asking you something and asking you why you don't know it. So it's sort of like a form of bullying, which it doesn't happen here.
It is never acceptable. And at any stage you feel that you may be bullied, or you feel very intimidated to the point that it could potentially affect your mental health, they strongly encourage people to speak out.
And they take it seriously.
And they take it really seriously. That's why we really felt very welcoming when we started here as junior doctors. So those are just an overview of why we really encourage people to choose this country. In case you're choosing, where do I go for my postgraduate training, or where do I go? I want to have an experience in another country. Definitely choose Australia. Okay? Alright, so hopefully you had that quick overview, and maybe imagine yourself doing the same thing with those things that we've enjoyed so far. Thank you very much for watching us today, and if you do have questions or any comments or any suggestions on any more videos that you want us to do, please like and subscribe, and you can email us, leave a comment. Alright, so see you next time. Bye.